condolences to the family there on the passing. Leanne, if we just may continue just shining a spotlight on this scourge of violence against our little ones. I think the well-being of the children of South Africa rests in all of our hands. Unless this becomes another talk shop, we're sounding the alarm. We're raising the bells and saying something must be done. You and I and all officials involved must come to the table, come to the party, and make sure that we do something. I'm going to read one or two tweets before we go back to the Brigadier to respond to Natalie's comments. Mr. Irvin saying, I was a member of Youth Desk, SAPS. When I reported, I received death threats. I should now die for people who don't care about themselves, he says. Malebocheng Belang says, the story of the gentleman in the wheelchair is very sad. I feel his frustrations. And then we also have a comment from Dumi saying, the Brigadier needs to just accept that the police system is terribly flawed and corrupt. We'll speak about the justice system in just a moment with a good advocate from Business Against Crime. But Brigadier, let's bring you to the fore once again and discuss some of Natalie's concerns. Is any particular race group being sidelined in the fight against crime?
It's not supposed to be like that. Our mandate remits from the Constitution, which covers each and every inhabitant of this country. What we need to look at is the structures. The policing should involve the community.
You say should, Brigadier, but is it? So it should do this, but is it the case on the ground?
Should, because if in that area it was in place, we shouldn't be having this question. We have structures in place, we have community policing forum, we should form partnership between the police station and the community to discuss the issues of policing within that area, where it gives a platform to the community to raise issues, burning issues or critical issues of their own area, which becomes a threat to their lives.
Are those systems working?
This is exactly my question sitting here. I could not be able to preempt my answer for her because I need to investigate the area where she's coming from, the issues she has raised here, to say what happened, what went wrong, into what's supposed to be happening in place. Because we issue instructions from national office to happen at the grassroots level. If it's not happening, that's when we hear in this forum like this, then where we need to respond and follow that up and check what's happening in that area.
Yusuf?
Can I just make one point? I don't think police and communities work close enough together. Crime knows no color, crime knows no background. Whether you're colored, whether you're Indian, whether you're black, whether you're white. Whether you're a farmer, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're male or you're female. These criminals are only after your ill-gotten gain. So let's not racialize it or polarize crime into one particular sector. And as much as the so-called colored communities are affected, take it from me. Every community in South Africa is affected. Brigadier, with respect, you can give instructions day in and day out. Whether the policemen on the ground implement those instructions is the big question. First of all, we need to hold the police accountable. As much as we support the police, Ayanda, as much as we praise the cops, as much as we have good cops, as much as we have pockets of excellence, there are many police officials who are useless. Must I repeat it? Brigadier, they are useless. And I say to you today, the big challenge for the police leadership is to clean up the police service. Brigadier Malila, well done to you for firing that guy, that cop that shot Dino. Why isn't he in jail? That cop that fired him, that cop that shot him shouldn't be fired. He should be fired, you're right. But he should be in jail. Dino, I don't blame you. I can understand your frustration, I can understand your anger, but my call to you is don't give up hope. As much as we are angry, let's work with the policemen. And I'll say it again, there are crooked policemen, there are policemen who are useless, but the majority of them are hardworking. When it comes to tip-offs, when you give information, it's critical that you remain anonymous. You have to remain anonymous. Use Crime Stop, use Crime Line. We guarantee you it's anonymous, right? There is no comeback, no need for you to appear in court. Because some of the policemen that you are telling us that you gave the information to, the fact that they are not acting on your information, the fact that they are not following up on your case means we have a problem, you know. And we have to make sure that we work together. You have to complain. Take it to the cluster commander, take it to the provincial commissioner of police, take it to the national commissioner, take it to the minister if you have to. We must stand up for our rights. It is a duty of the police to protect us. And that is why I believe, Ayanda, accountability is critical. for us to make sure that the police deliver on their mandate. And the communities have to work closer together. Where's Andy Mashaile? Are you here? Andy Mashaile is the chairman of the Community Policing Board, and he will bear me out. We have great CPFs. We have hard-working CPFs. But I don't think that the police and CPFs are working closer together. There is a major problem which we need to talk about, Ayanda.
We need to discuss that. And Brigadier, I'll give you an opportunity to respond to this. Mob justice and calls for the death penalty to return are just manifestations that people are disgruntled with the wheels of justice and the pace at which they turn. You've also made some suggestions of reforming or perhaps taking a closer look or adjusting the justice system so that it works better. Tell us your suggestions.
Well, government at the moment is doing quite a lot on the system, and the problem is it's not really communicated to our communities. And I think the positive side is that government, right through from the presidency, realizes that crime is a problem in this country. It's one of the core objectives in the National Development Plan. And you'll find that if you had to break the NDP's objectives down to a finer level, 3 of the core areas of the NDP is to enhance community mobilization, make the police a professional service, and to mobilize the criminal justice system so that it is ultimately effective. Now, that is what we are focusing on as business, to provide that support to government. If you take the SAPS and some of the disgruntled members in the community are quite right. The reason being is that you don't have optimum access to the South African Police Service. And whilst the lady may have mentioned, yes, it may be that the colored community is being targeted, the reality is you will find in a lot of the rural areas, there are a lot of other races that don't have access to the police, and that is why it's not reported. So the problem is out there, and what we're trying to do with the SAPS, and the SAPS has actually prioritized the Frontline Service Delivery Initiative, which is a massive initiative. It is a minister's priority initiative, and that is going to revamp and revitalize service to the communities, one of which is accessibility, affording communities accessibility. And we've got various initiatives with the police on this. If I could just touch on 2 of them. One of which we're working with the cell phone network providers to try and give people in rural areas access by using cell phones. And where they cannot have access, they are going to put up these portable antennas in some of these areas as a pilot program. We're also working with a company who's creating a cell phone application so that people can start reporting and start complaining to us through this application, and we will ensure that SAPS responds to it. Now, SAPS is very keen. The National Commissioner is quite keen on eradicating the problems that communities are having at the moment, and that is why she's dedicated on the Frontline Services Initiative. But I think your other challenge is, and the question that everybody asks is, why is it that the criminal justice system is not a deterrent? Why don't perpetrators fear it? You've got to look at the full circle. Remember, it doesn't end at the police, it doesn't end at the prosecution department, it doesn't even end at correctional services. You will find that a lot of the perpetrators are actually reoffenders. And the mere fact that we have reoffenders in the country, which is at quite an alarming rate, we've got to ask the question, is it the rehabilitation programs? Are they insufficient? Are they inadequate? Does correctional services have the capacity and skills to reform these people? Yes, all of that is there. The problem is that when the person steps out of the facility, he or she requires community support, because that is when correctional services no longer has control over that individual. So we've also got to start with a mindset change in communities. There's always a stigma attached to perpetrators.
If I may interject there, a point has been raised as to how you know that a rapist has been rehabilitated in jail. A child rapist, to be exact, because they're not in an environment that would allow them to reoffend. Yes. How do you know that such a person has been rehabilitated? They may be behaving well, so they may be let out on good behavior and go out and commit the very same pedophile activities that they do. How do you know that a pedophile can be rehabilitated and you send them out into society as well? I know the issues of crowding in jail also perhaps have a role to play, that good behavior, but you don't have anything to test the person's behavior to see whether or not they have been rehabilitated, and we're all shocked when they're released on bail. And I think that is Ali Malisa's question as well, something similar on table 18. Ali has spoken about why criminals are given bail whilst they have pending and serious criminal cases. So I don't know, Ali, if there's a personal perspective that you have there, just to quickly contribute. Maybe we can bunch this question together.
Good day to everyone. My name is Ali Males. I'm from Palaburwa. Our community has just made headlines on the Soweto News newspaper last month, wherein 2 young men were killed by the mob justice. The reason being, there are people who are given, known criminals who are given bails time and again, whereas they too have...
That is the problem.
Pending criminal cases, and the community gets fed up because they are known criminals, but when there are reported cases against them, they tend to be going to jail and then get back to the community. So my question is to the Justice Department, to the police, what is it that they are doing to ensure that those with pending serious criminal cases are not given bail?
Ayanda, before you give the Brigadier a chance to respond, can I just give you a personal experience? And I think you're 100% right, sir. I fell victim to an armed robbery at my house in November last year. 2 days later, great work by the cops, 2 suspects arrested. One of them was out on bail on 21 charges, including attempted murder, housebreaking, robbery, illegal arms possession. How did he get bail on 21 different occasions on those serious charges? We have a problem with this criminal justice system, and I believe you are right. We need to make sure that the police and the Justice Department really work together. That is our big challenge. We need to pursue, we need to prosecute, and we need to punish. Those 3 P's are critical in the fight against crime, and that is why, Brigadier, I say it again, training of police officials is critical. Business Against Crime is doing great work, be it with the 10111 Center, be it putting their money and their time into training police officials. That is why when we are hosting this 35th training conference for law enforcement from people around the world, with Crime Line and Crime Stoppers in October, we want the public to come on board. We want you to come and see and look to exactly what are the biggest challenges facing South Africa and world law enforcement. We have to train our police officials. We need a new breed of police officials. When you hear a story that a cop can't write the statement, the policeman can't write the statement.
I'm going to bring the Brigadier. I'm going to bring the Brigadier into this, and unfortunately, you're bearing the brunt for the rest of the Ps. Unfortunately, you're the one who's going to have to speak on behalf of the entire justice system. It's not only the fault of the police that we're bringing here. You've heard Mr. Abramjee saying on the ground the implementation is poor. I think his words were useless. We've also heard accusations that the morale among police officers is pretty low, that some of them are preferring the more militaristic leadership of the former police commissioner Begekele, and that they're feeling that there's no leadership and that there's no reason for them or if I can say that, you know, the English word escapes me right now. Speak to us about the implementation, because on paper everything looks rosy, it looks all good.
That's the reason why ourselves at National Office, we go down and do the inspections to make sure that they're in compliance with the legislations. When we find that there's a problem with command and control, we make recommendations to say that must be rectified. But what I cannot sit here and defend is the fact that we do have that pocket of corrupt police officers. That's the reason why we are arresting our own police officers. We change the blue to orange. We take our own into prison. We need, I want to urge our community here to work hand in hand with ourselves as police officers to identify and get rid of those rotten potatoes, because it takes a member of the community to corrupt the police officer. We need to identify a corruptee and a corrupter and arrest both so we can deal with this kind of sickness, which is like cancer within the police services. But the training is ongoing within the police services. But we need to deal with the attitude of the police, of some of the members of the police as well, to do the policing accordingly. We are not forced to be members of the police services. We chose to be here, and we should show our passion. We should be patriots about our own country that we want to defend against the scourge of crime. But this kind of war, we cannot win alone. We need partnership with civil society to assist us to work hand in hand so that we can have a multidisciplinary approach on these issues.
Is it been taken seriously, though, from within the police service? Is it reaching crisis proportion where you're having these kind of discussions and it's a matter of urgency?
We do. Well, we are looking at the issue of command and control. We're looking at whether the people who are in command, the managers, are they well equipped? Are they hands-on in terms of the day-to-day functioning of the police? We do want to take the police into the right direction where the community can have trust within the police station that they have in their own area. As I'm saying, that the structures of community policing forums should be the platform to discuss the problems between themselves and in the area of the crimes where they've got hotspots, and also report anonymously on the Crime Stop number, which is 08600 10111 anonymously, where you give the information, the tip to the police, and the police work on that. And we are yielding results on that. People are calling us. But the issue is, this is not the kind of a thing that we can work on overnight. It's a work in progress, but the community is a very critical role player here.
All right, please repeat that number for us again, the crime stop number.
08600 10111.
I know Crime Line also has a number that you can, I think now is the opportunity that you can...
SMS 32211 at the cost of R1. You can also go to crimeline.co.za. And these type of service at Ayanda work, you're right, we've had thousands of arrests, millions of rands of seizures. We encourage the public.
Indeed.
If you know of any wrongdoing, be it in your family, your workplace, your community, do what is right. It's not about paying a reward. It's your moral and it's your national duty to go and report any wrongdoing.
Couldn't agree with you more. Brigadier, I know there's something you quickly want to add.
I do also want to respond to my brother over there, the issue of bail. The police officer is to arrest the person and take him to court. Our obligation when we go to court is to stand there and oppose bail, given a reason that there are some pending cases against that particular individual. The decision to grant bail or not grant bail is not with the police, it's with the Justice Department. The presiding officer is the one to decide whether that person must get bail or not, because a person is presumed innocent until proven guilty. But we as police officers, we cannot say the person must get bail. We do make our statement in terms of saying we oppose bail, but the decision is not with the police department.
Hence my disclaimer when I asked you that question, saying that unfortunately you're bearing the brunt of the rest of the security or justice cluster, if I can bring it to the fore there. This also speaks to the issue of South Africans knowing the Constitution and knowing how the justice system works. I think we just need to be refreshed when it comes to that. We're going to take a break a little bit later in the show, but I want to speak to Thando Vilakazi on table number 9, who has a suggestion. It's very important, and Brigadier, you're having a very, very difficult day this morning. Thando wants to suggest something that would make it easier for women and young ladies to be able to report sexual crimes and crimes of a domestic nature, because many of them feel intimidated to go and speak to a man about what has just happened. So they can't be forced, I think, to speak to a gentleman. There have to be measures in place so that they can speak to someone that they're more comfortable with, and usually that would be someone of the fairer sex, if I can say that. So Thando, can you speak to us?
Like our question actually is like, we'd like to know like, what is the government doing to actually ensure that people from like rural areas and like places where people are not as, like do not have opportunities like us, what do you do to educate them about the dangers of substance abuse so that they don't become criminals themselves? Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can answer both of those. The issues of drugs, as we said, there's a ripple effect. Yusuf touched on this a little bit earlier, that the scourge of drugs, poverty also comes into play, that forces someone into a life of criminality. So what do we do to sort of circumvent that chain of reaction, maybe nip it in the bud at the stage of introduction to the drugs? So the issue of drugs, and then perhaps even having female police officers, I think that's what the script says, having female police officers visiting centers like the 3-Nail Recovery Center to speak to the girls and to conduct whatever tests are necessary.
Thank you, Ayanda. Within the FCS, we do have male and female officers. When the complainant or the victim makes a request to say, I want to be seen, or I want to talk to a female officer, we make that available for her. It is at their own choice. We do have female and male officers within the police, within the FCS environment. Coming to the issue of drugs and the education, this is a very critical. As much as we educate the police officers, I think it's also important to educate our own community in terms of our process flow and the services available for them in case they become a victim of crime, or if they want to report the crime has been committed. We do have the community outreach program, which is led by our Deputy Minister of Police and our National Commissioner, going to the community, reaching the community, and explaining the seriousness of this scourge of crime. More so, we see more rape cases being committed. This person takes nyaupe. He sees an old lady of 92 years as if she's now 35. He sees a 5-year-old child as if now she's old. And the impact of drugs, the drugs have an impact, a huge impact in our crime. It has a huge impact on our crime. It's important for us to go out there and get rid of this scourge, because once a person gets addicted, it's very hard the person to get rehabilitated. A person goes around to feed this now monster that is hungry, to go and steal and break in and housebreaking and hijacking. It's because of the drugs that also has the impact on crime. There are a lot of issues which impact on crime itself. There is also issues of environmental design, where there's a big grass that is over there that women cross over to go and fetch water. There is a problem also of open parks at night where women have to cross a long distance going to get services or going to work. These days women have to work as well. Some, they cannot afford to have transport. They have to walk through those dark alleys. And now the criminals are taking that opportunity. It's important for us to limit the opportunity for the criminals to commit crime and have constraints, maximize the constraints for the criminals so that it can be deterrent.
Sibi, let me bring you in here. Advocate, the broken window effect is what comes to mind when the Brigadier is speaking now. Fix the little problems, because in the greater scheme of things, they address the big challenges that we're seeing today. So issues where someone will think, just dacha. You know, it's nothing serious. Issues like felt and having big grass and it's unmowed and unkept. And this is where some of these youngsters go around there and sit there and smoke, or perhaps share the spoils of whatever they've stolen. So those small pockets that need to be fixed within the justice system, within our communities, are they being given priority?
No, I don't think they are seen as priority areas. As you said, they're seen as little pockets or little irritations that are here, there, and everywhere. But coming back to the issue of drugs, government needs to be playing a bigger role in helping communities to eradicate the problem. The biggest problem with drugs is you do get kids, for instance, that are addicted. They want help. Their parents cannot afford rehabilitation. And this is where I feel government needs to make that facility available for communities, help them to rehabilitate themselves, because the correctional facility cannot help you if you're a drug addict.
Yeah.
They are not trained to do so. They are a corrections facility. Drug addiction is an illness, and it must be treated as such. But government is the only role player that can come on board to make this accessible to the public.
I think you've answered so many questions. Yusuf, I'm gonna ask you to hold that thought. When we get back from the ad break, we'll begin with you. You've answered about 3 questions in that particular answer. Many people very concerned about this drug scourge and how you deal with it. A number of perpetrators, victims themselves of drug abuse. So definitely one to look out for. We're going to take a quick ad break. When we continue, we will resume our discussion. Please do stay with us.